Well, good morning, everyone. It is 8 o'clock, and so we will start our 77th meeting of the Metro Area Transit Coordinating Board. We do have a couple new individuals on the committee, so I would like to introduce them. Annie Wood, our representative from MSUM, so welcome to you. And then Deb White, her first meeting with us, so again, welcome to them. And then also, we have Julie Schuler here today, representing First Transit, and I know she was going to say a couple words.
Yeah. Yeah. Good morning. My name is Julie Sellner. I'm the Region Director for First Transit. I've been with First Transit about 18 years, a little over 18 years. I report directly to Paul Buchanan, our Region Vice President. I believe some of you might have met him at previous meetings that we've had. I'm here to acknowledge the fact that our General Manager, untimely departure of our General Manager the week of March 4th. I've stepped in to help our local team stay on track in delivering our fixed route and paratransit services. First Transit is very committed to maintaining our successful partnership with the MapBus leadership team. I'm working with the local management team to maintain and encourage our staff morale. My focus is delivering excellent service, transparent communication with the team, as well as supporting and developing our local team. Paul Buchanan is coordinating and delivering additional resources to help ensure that we meet our commitments by having daily communications with our local staff. We started a national search for a general manager immediately. First Transit's corporate recruiting resources are fully engaged in that search. Both Paul and I are committed to finding a general manager that will work well in maintaining our long-term relationship with this staff, who we've worked with for quite a long time, and help us to continue to deliver our service to the communities that you serve. I'd also like to really express my gratitude to Julie, Lori, Matt, for their support during this transition, and to thank you for the opportunity to speak to you this morning. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me, okay? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Julie. All right, we'll move on to our agenda. The first item is 2A, which is the review of our minutes from our November 28th meeting. Hopefully you've had a chance to review those minutes, and if so, we would entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
I'll make a motion.
First?
Second.
We have first and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Next item is 2B, which is the 2019 MatBus free and discounted fare events. It is an agenda item, 2B, and Lori.
Thank you. We brought this to you last year for the first time. In the past, the free and promotional fares were established by administration in the MatBus system. But in 2018, the City Council in Moorhead made a change, and so the city manager makes those decisions on that and then reports back to the City Council. And Fargo Transit Director still makes those promotional fare changes and things, but so annually, the city manager would like us to bring these things forward and so that she can annually see what we're doing with promotions and free rides. The list is pretty much the same as last year. We've separated them by month so you can see what activities that we are doing, and they're the regular activities that we do every year within the community when we participate with different events. And then there are a couple of new ones in there. There is the Red Hawks baseball cards, which have a free ride coupon in them. That's a new one that Fargo is doing. And last year we added the NDSU Homecoming Parade free, fare free at 3. Because of the homecoming parade downtown, so many of the routes are disrupted, and so we give out fare free rides starting at 3 o'clock and encourage people to take the bus rather than trying to park downtown for that event. So otherwise, all of the events that are listed here, like Midwest Kid Fest and Plains Art Museum, Buzz Lab, and youth library rides and things like that, are activities that we have done annually for a number of years. On the page 3, I think it is, there are some promotional and pilot program passes that we also do. They're not free rides, but they're reduced fares for promotional reasons, like the college semester pass and the bike and bus pass, and the employer purchase passes for downtown. And those are discounted from our normal prices to encourage groups of people to purchase those. So the requested motion is for the MAT Coordinating Board to recommend to the Morehead City Manager approval of the listing of free and reduced promotional fares, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
All right, questions for Julie? Okay, hearing none, we would entertain a requested motion at this time.
I move to recommend that the Morehead City Manager approve the list.
Okay, we have a first
Second.
and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you, Lori. We'll move on to our informational items. First up is 3A, which is the Ground Transportation Center renovation. Julie?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to give you an update on the GTC Ground Transportation Center renovation. We were fortunate enough to have North Dakota DOT give us a hefty grant, $1.6 million, and we do have another grant in place that will end with local share. That's going to bring us up to about $3 million, which is a significant renovation. So just to bring you up to date, we are basing this on the transit facility study that you had presented to you not too long ago. And it identified what we call the short-term, medium-term, and long-term situations, and identified ideas and identified areas of need, say like the HVAC system. So we put out a design bid build RFP. The first time around, we only had one bidder on that. And we did have quite a bit of input from potential bidders, prompting us to go ahead and resubmit or reissue, an RFP. So we did get 7 firms that were interested. Only 2 actually sent us proposals. However, they're very good proposals. So we interviewed both of those teams and we selected KLJ. They are the firm that did the facility study, so they are very, very familiar with what we have going on at the GTC. And they oversaw the deck renovation 2 years ago. So main thing we just wanted to let you guys know is that the $3 million is going to go to a significant renovation. There will be obviously disruptions, but we're coordinating with our engineering department so that the streetscape that they're redoing on NP Avenue will be coordinated with us so that it blends very well. And we also have the firm, they have subcontractors, of course, and what our plan is to bring, it's not necessarily going to look like what you see behind you. That's just a concept as far as how a hub could look. But we'd like to bring down, there's air handling units right in the front that tend to block the view. So we are hoping that out of this will come a little bit less of a profile on those, open it up more. We're going to remove that large canopy. We're going to replace it with some individual canopies, kind of bring us into the 21st century. So we still provide that coverage and care for our passengers. Unfortunately, that canopy over the years has become a bird magnet, and they really enjoy nesting in up there, and we all know what happens then. So we're going to redo the restrooms. We're going to put more offices down there. We're going to replace all the flooring. And because Jefferson Lines has moved in, they moved in the middle of February, we'll have that multimodal, awesome looking facility that will also be very functional. So we're excited. I just wanted to let you know what was going on. So if you have any questions, happy to answer them.
Any questions for Julie? Sarah?
Sarah.
Thanks, Julie, for the information. 2 questions, actually. The first is with the Jefferson Lines located with you guys now. Is there any change in your hours? I would assume not, but
There have not been for us, and the only difference for Jefferson is that they are open on Sundays for a period of time, but they cover everything while they're there.
staffing, and so it's open for their customers for bathrooms.
Correct, yes. Mhm.
Great to know. And then the second kind of question, sort of comment, I know I brought this up before too, but within the design proposed from KLJ. I know there's increased need for some security, and we talked about including kind of the design elements too. So it sounds like that's being addressed with opening up the spaces and relocating things, but I wanted to make sure that that was being addressed.
I'm glad you asked. That's at the top of my priority list because there's an emphasis on safety and security from Federal Transit, but also locally. I mean, we've had a lot of good talks with Fargo PD, with our security provider, and in fact, the ongoing talks with Fargo PD are, at some point, we would like to incorporate having 1 to 2 of their officers available, that we would subsidize their salaries, and then they would be more of a dedicated police force for us. So that's in the talks with Fargo PD, which would be fantastic. But we have had some security issues, and we intend to use some of the revenues from Jefferson to beef up that situation down there. One of the design, not only opening things up, but one of the design features that we're going to do is move our dispatch to what would be the southeast corner. And it's all glass, so they're going to have a much better view rather than being receded back into the lobby. And we are going to relocate the restrooms so that they're more visible to us. And of course, there's cameras everywhere, and we'll beef up whichever cameras we need that not only Fargo PD has access to them now, but we also can view those remotely or on site. So we're hoping that a lot of those measures being put into place will really help with that.
Thank you.
Does that answer, Sarah?
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that it's not only a staffing issue with security cameras, but that we're looking holistically, including the design. So thank you for saying
You're
that.
welcome.
Yep.
Anything else? Yeah.
Thanks, Julie. You mentioned there will be some disruption, and I apologize if you've covered this at a previous meeting, but could you just talk a little bit about that timeline from start to finish? You know, how long until the project is done, and what kind of things will be done to help alleviate, the impact on some of the riders during that time?
That very good question. The timeline for the project is that we've already awarded it to KLJ. So they're pulling together everything. They will issue their documents, the bid documents, by, we're hoping, the end of April, mid-May at the latest. So the construction is anticipated to start this June, and the project is going to be complete next April. So the disruption of course, they're going to phase it with different pieces. And part of the RFP and the requirement is that they accommodate our bus movements. There will be time, in a lot of the work, possibly some of the heavy lifting would be done on Sundays when it's least disruptive. The only ones that would be there would be Jefferson. And actually, they're only there for certain hours. So some of the work will be done on Sundays. And it is required that they are able to accommodate all of our operating idiosyncrasies. So we may be dispatching buses on the street. We've done that before. And we're going to be using what we call the back door, which is actually they would be entering on 4th Street and coming in through there. We'd open up that barrier that's between us and Municipal Court. So we've had one major renovation down there in 2004, and we did things like that. I want to give a lot of notice to the passengers so they know what to expect. And part of the reason for the timing is the college students will not be around when the real significant part of the project is going on, so that will, and the weather will be nice. It's not in the middle of the winter, so that people can go ahead and be transferred out on the street and down the block and a few things like that. So we've done it before, and we can do it again. So appreciate the question. That was a good question.
Other questions? Thank you, Julie.
Sure, you're welcome. Thank you.
Moving on, we'll go to item number 3B, which is the State of Minnesota Operating Grant Amendment. Lori.
So the state of Minnesota has a surplus of transit money, and they have approached all of the transit agencies in the state and are amending our contracts for 2019 operating assistance to lower the local match for the grants and provide us with more money locally to make other, hopefully, to invest in other improvements to the transit system. So currently, for the fixed route system, we have a 20% local match that'll be reduced to 10%. And for our paratransit and senior ride special services, we have a 15% match, and that'll be lowered to 5% match. So it's a considerable amount of money that they'll be lowering that amount. Our fare box revenue, our program income from advertising and concessions is actually more than that local share match. And so it frees up all of the general fund monies that were allocated to transit, and it also it provides overmatch. And so that overmatch money from the fares does have to stay in the transit system for sure, and be invested in future projects. So the city manager will be meeting with us to talk about what kinds of projects we'd like to see move forward. We'll bring those to the city council for review as we get that list put together. Some of the things we are approaching the city manager with are from that facility analysis or the facility study that you guys approved, where the GTC recommendations are coming from, and that is improving the Dilworth Walmart hub. That hub now has 3 bus routes and 2 buses at it, and it's a very small shelter. They've done some changes in the Walmart area with their canopy grocery pickup area, and so they're very excited about the changes that are coming down, and they want to see those go into place as soon as possible. So we are going to be recommending that to the city manager for approval. We also have many aging shelters. We have in our capital improvement plan to replace 1 shelter each year. Potentially, we could move some of those up and replace more than just 1 a year. Most of our shelters were purchased in 1980 and 1982, so we have done some improvements to the concrete and pathways over the years, but the shelters themselves are still, many of them are over 30 years old. Also, in our ADA plan, transition plan, we also identified some improvements to the shelters that are needed for concrete areas and accessibility for slope and things like that we would like to see improved. And the city engineering department is looking at green light priority project for our traffic signals in Moorhead, so that we can hold the greens longer and get the buses through, improving our on-time performance. That's a joint project that we're looking at implementing as funds become available. Also in the facility study was the Metro Transit garage parking area on 24th Street to the west of our facility. We're looking at potentially making that diagonal parking and increasing our parking for staff by doing that, because we don't have enough parking now. Also, Valley Senior Services is looking at buying some scheduling software, and has asked us to cost share in that, so that might be some potential use for this funding change as well. Otherwise, our 10-year financial plan has bus purchases, paratransit vehicles, fixed route vehicles, and things in it that, rather than using capital improvement funds from the city, we could use these funds. And so those are all different strategies that we'll bring to our city manager and see what she wants to recommend back to us for doing that. The contracts with the state of Minnesota also dictates how much federal money we use for operating, and they did increase that amount a little bit too. So there will be an amendment needed to our 2019 budget to move those state and federal monies around, and whatever decision is made as to how we might spend those, whether or not we'll spend them now or 2020, or set them aside for a future capital project. So I wanted to make you aware of that change. We're very excited that the state is doing that. It's only for 2019, and so it's a one-time opportunity, but the funds can be put in our mass transit reserves account and used for future projects. So even though it's a 2019 savings, it's got a long-term benefit to us, and it's approximately $200,000. So if that is used to match federal grant money, that's up to $1 million project. So there's some good opportunities here for improvements. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Great questions for Lori.
I have one question.
Yes, Deb.
Lori, when you give the list to the city manager, is it a ranked list, or are you just giving her some different possibilities, or will you be able to make some recommendations over which of these projects you think would be the best ones to take on at this point with this opportunity?
I would like to give her some recommendations for priorities. But ultimately, it's her budget and her decision. So, and of course, council has final decision. So, yeah, I mean, I'm happy to pass on anything to her that you might want to recommend it to at this point. I know that she has some other general fund financing concerns, and so she might take some of that money back into the general fund. But then the portion that's an excess revenue has to stay with transit. So that's about $120,000 that has to stay in transit. And so it's about $150,000 that can be put back into the general fund if needed. But she's setting aside money every year for future capital projects already, so this might just be her set aside. So I'm not really sure what she's going to want to do with that at this point. But if you've got some recommendations, too, I'd be happy to share those.
Yeah, and I don't in particular, but just thinking about that, of which of these, I think all of these look like great proposals, but just thinking about which ones are of the greatest need at this particular time would be valuable.
Yeah, I think the facility analysis study really pointed out some short-term improvements that we'd like to see. The parking improvements at the Metro Transit Garage and the hub at the Dilworth Walmart would be big factors that would help our passengers quite a bit. And so I would probably recommend those as my top priorities at this point.
Good to know.
Any discussion? Okay, thank you, Lori. We'll move on to our agenda, item number 3C, an update on the Transit Authority study. Michael.
Good morning. To figure out where this is. So as you know, MetroCog has programmed a project to look at the feasibility of creating a transit authority in this region, or other types of revenue gathering methods that could assist MapBus once MetroCog becomes a transportation management area, or a TMA, which is a census designated area over 200,000 in population. It's the next tier of MPO that this region will achieve after the 2020 census. And that affects MapBus in a couple of different ways. The largest way is that their funding could decrease. I won't go into the federal regs, but they could see a decrease immediately of 25% of their operating funds, and that would have to be made up through local revenue sources. And so MapBus has hired SRF Consulting Group with subconsultant AECom to look at funding structures in the region and how those funding structures can be utilized in order to provide transit service throughout the region. We will also be looking at the governance structure, so this body and the Moorhead and city councils, and how decisions are made within the region and how that could change or stay the same. We'll also be looking at a lot of the agreements that are in place. For instance, MTG and the GTC, and who makes the decisions and how that is done at a region-wide scale. So we are actually kicking off the meeting tomorrow. We have our first SRC meeting just with staff, and there we're going to come up with kind of a decision-making paradigm for the study, which will likely be in 2 tiers. Be kind of a staff review, and then have a committee, either this committee or comprised of city leadership and elected officials to guide the development of the study. So that's kind of just a short and skinny on the project. If there are any questions, I'd feel free to.
Right. Questions for Michael? Okay. Here none, thank you, Michael. We'll move on to item 3D, which is the 2018 Transit Achievement Report. Lori and Julie, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll do you the favor of not reading you every single thing they did. But there are quite a few things that have been going on in 2018, most of which you've heard about, no doubt. But it's always good to just look back and say, wow, we really did do that. So it is, part of it has been equipment replacement. I know in Fargo, and of course Lori's going to speak to Moorhead, but we were finally able to replace our 2002 and 2004 buses. So we did receive 7 replacement buses, which was fantastic for us. And I know it's been great for Jordan, our fleet services manager. He's got a lot less work to do. So the vehicles, that has been one of the big things for us. We've definitely gone through and just highlighted some of this. So these new buses, and you've seen them around on the streets, but they have what we call the flush mount windows, so they're not protruding at all from the bus. It's a sleeker design. And we've put a lot of features in there that are beneficial to the driver. We have some special seats that we put in there. It makes it more comfortable. They're sitting in those vehicles for hours and hours. We have some more cameras that we've added where we really want to beef up as much as we can security on the bus without, alienating anyone, but keeping everyone as safe as we possibly can. So security is foremost in our minds, and safety of our passengers and drivers. We have changed the illuminator head signs to twin vision is what it's called, and that's to improve some functionality that we have. And we can also there's boards for displays of messages and such in the newer buses, which is nice. We can up the messages as we need to. We've added some exterior cameras and just some features. I like the aluminum wheels on there. Turns out our shop in the past was we'd get the aluminum wheels and then they'd paint the rims white. And I said, why are we making it that hard? I love the aluminum wheels. So we did do that. And I'm going to let Lori talk about how the city of Moorhead, the toolcat and stuff. So if you want to go ahead, Lori, on some of that.
Oh, yeah, we had purchased the toolcat back in 2009 when the city of Moorhead was doing snow removal at our shelters. And starting in 2018, we contracted out snow removal privately, and so that toolcat came back to us. Now we can use that to remove snow on our sidewalks and in our parking lots and at the ground transportation center and things. So we're happy to have that toolcat back, and it's got some good life in it. We're going to continue to use that in our facilities.
Well, then we got a new shop truck as well that has the feature we can add the plow to the front, which has helped tremendously with snow removal in and around our own facility. And this year has been especially, it was good timing for us to get it at this point in time. And we have received a couple of new transfer vans, the ones that our drivers were driving. They were old, had well over 200,000 miles on them. And this was definitely a benefit. We managed to get some money that was grant money that we could buy those with. So all of that is related to customer-facing upgrades and actually in my opinion, making our image that much nicer. So we are seeing improvements there. Some of the fare changes where we implemented a 90-day youth pass, which will go throughout. What happens is these are K through 12, so they're eligible to purchase a pass at $26 for 90 days, which in the past was only in the summer, but we do that year-round now. You guys had to approve that earlier. We have, on the Fargo side, and I know Moorhead's looking at adding a bike and bus program, but the existing bike and bus program we have, or bike program that we have, we've partnered with them, so individuals can buy one single pass that works on both of our systems, which it's been not as well, I think, advertised maybe as part of our issue, but we haven't seen a lot of use of that yet, so we're going to try and hit that a little harder this coming season. And we have increased the paratransit agency rate, which that is only applicable, just a quick reminder, to skilled nursing facilities. So anyone living in a skilled nursing facility going to a medical appointment, that rate would apply. And anyone coming from an ICMFR facility, MR facility to a day program. So it's very narrow scope on when that rate would be used. And the only reason for that is that those services are already included in what the resident is paying. So if you want to talk about marketing, Lori, go ahead.
Sure. Fargo did a new bus wrap called A Place for Everyone. You maybe have seen that one. It looks like people are sitting in the bus. You can, like you're seeing right through the bus. And that's a fun promotional piece that we can use when we're in community events and things to promote us. And then we've also got a TV commercial with that in where we're driving down the street safely, and people on the bus are enjoying their ride, not having to worry about the weather and the traffic. We've also got trade agreements now with WDAY for both Fargo and Moorhead to do those television commercials. So that's why you're seeing those commercials. It's just a trade in the value of their wrap on one of each of our buses for advertising on WDAY. And our I Go Eco television commercial did win a first place ad award, so at the American Public Transit Association. So we were excited. That's a national award for our commercial. They showed it at the event, and people really enjoyed that and asked us lots of questions about it. So that was a good item to do. We also participated in numerous events and continue to do that in the community. Outlined in here are all the route changes we made this year, and most of these you have seen as we've implemented them, as we've brought them to you. So there's not a lot of them really. They're minor, but tweaks is needed in the community as things have changed. And we have put in some new shelters and improved some facilities. In Moorhead, we added 3 new shelters in 18. We added one to the Bright Sky Apartments on 34th Street and 3rd Avenue North, one at the Cashwise at the East 10 Mall, and one at the Hornbachers Azul on 40th Avenue. And then Fargo has some as well improvements that they have made.
Yeah, we were able, again, through grants, to order 10 new shelters. We're going to actually use those as replacements of ones that we have some that are from the 80s as well. But we're not going to just eliminate those. We'll replace them to areas that we've identified could use a shelter. So that's going to be the project this summer. We'll upgrade the concrete. We ordered all new garbage cans. I mean, really want to clean that up and make it very appealing and safe again for everyone. So we're excited about those new shelters. We've done the replacement fencing around the GTC kind of as a start to get us moving ahead on that. And studies, we've all I know we've brought them all forward to you folks, so those are listed there as well. I didn't want to go into too much of that. And I think I'll let Lori finish up for everybody.
Well, I'm not going to read off all the personnel training, but we do have continued training for our staff and put in our budgets, and they have been attending training to keep up their education and so they can be better employees. And then we did extend our contract with First Transit through calendar year 2019. And then there's some changes that we are making to our paratransit system in the application process, putting everything on Laserfish, getting rid of our paper files, and we're recertifying people for paratransit, actually currently right now as well. So.
Okay, I was just going to add one thing. On the way to this meeting this morning, I heard that it's likely we're going to see the blue laws go away. Yeah, August 1st is my understanding. And that's going to bring first and foremost for us to discuss Sunday service at some point before August 1st probably. So just kind of a heads up, and I know that folks out there would use it. I know there's a need for it. So we have actually identified in the last transit development plan what we would recommend. That may have changed a little bit, but just kind of a heads up so we don't surprise you guys. But it's a good thing. It's a good thing. I think folks need service on Sunday, so we'll be looking at that here in the near future.
We're also working on flood transportation at this time as they gear up to make sandbags and move volunteers around to make sandbags and place sandbags. We are working in coordination with emergency management people on any assistance that they need for moving volunteers. All right.
That's it.
Any
Thanks.
questions you have for us?
Questions for Julie and Lori? And we've done some studies on the Sunday openings too, it's kind of some demand. Have we looked at that? We've looked at it over the last few years, right? We've
During
kinda
the
taken-
transit development plan phase, yeah.
Okay.
And it's been brought up several times over
So we
the
won't be
course of
starting
the
from
time.
scratch, but
Yeah, and
costly.
it's, yeah, they identified, the group was SRF that came in and did that study. Of course, we'd have to update that, like I was saying. It is a little bit on the costly side, so,
Because we would have to have our ground transportation center open and our Metro Transit garage open, so there's maintenance people available for, different things, supervisors on staff that aren't usually on staff. So it's a pretty large leap for us in cost. So I'm sure we'll need to study that further on how that could happen and what the cost would be, how we would fund that.
yeah. And I know in the TDP, they identified for Fargo, it would be, depending on, of course, level of service, probably right around 600,000, 650,000. So we'll refine those figures and get a proposal together to bring back to you folks and our
And you
commission
mentioned
council.
the flood prep, so is that typically, are you looking at, additional drivers, routes, buses, kind of coordinate, at this point, what are your planning stages?
On the Fargo side, we've met up at the EOC, and everybody's been, of course, assigned something, transportation being ours. They decided to maybe approach it a little differently. They did get agreement from the West Fargo schools that their students would be allowed to come out and sandbag if they so desired. And I'm guessing probably Commissioner Strand might know a little more than me, but so as of yesterday anyway, what we plan to do is let Valley Bus handle that part of it, where they're going to be going to Sandbag Central, where there will be 2 spiders, those machines, that look like the spider arms. And they'll be their goal is to get 1 million sandbags in 10 days put together. And then what we would be doing is participating more in the effort to get the volunteers out into the field. My understanding is that they would utilize firefighters and some of the National Guard and such first before, but then we'd also tap the students again if the schools are agreeable to that. So on the Fargo side, we're looking at about 1 million sandbags and placing those because so much has been done. But Moorhead, Lori, go ahead.
Yeah, we're looking at about 300,000 sandbags on the Moorhead side, and they're still pulling together, where that will occur and where registration will occur. We'll know more later this week. We have a meeting at 1 o'clock today. But they have asked the high school if they'd be willing to use some of their students and buses to help with making sandbags, and also the colleges. And so they're moving forward with those plans. We don't have a lot of drivers available. First Transit is understaffed at this time, and so I have mentioned to them that we would prefer to use the school buses if at all possible, and Moorhead Schools is part of the emergency management plan, and so they're at the table. There's also the private contractors that we could hire if need be to move passengers as well. But at this point, I think First Transit's down about 18 drivers on just getting our services on the street each day. So it's not like we have a lot of available drivers to help with moving people. But I don't think there's going to be a huge need to move a lot of people either. If the high schools are helping and they're moving their own students, and we have a registration area with plenty of parking, I think there'll just be some smaller needs for transportation, and then we should be able to work together to meet those needs.
Okay, other questions? Okay, if not, we'll move on to, let's do items 3E and F, the 2018 year-end operations and the January and February 29 operations reports and the college ridership reports. Matt and Lori.
Okay, so 2018. 2018 was a good year. It was a full year of our pilot program where we increased service in the evenings and Saturdays in Moorhead. We started that in July of 2017, so 2018 was a full year of new service. And as you can see, it paid off. Our ridership increased by 17.42% in Moorhead, with only 8.8% revenue hours increase. So our rides per hour have gone up, and that's been going well. On-time performance is fairly stable. We've got a few detours going on with the 21st Street grade separation, so that's affecting Route 3, and which also affects Route 1 since they're interlined. But 18 was a good year, and I see we are seeing great improvements.
On the Fargo side, like Lori said, 18 was a very good year. Our actual ridership for the metro area, Fargo, Moorhead, Dilworth, West Fargo, topped just over 2 million rides or 2 million trips, which is the first time we've done that in the last 3 years. I believe it was 2015 that we did 2 million prior. However, in Fargo, we had an increase of just under 3% in ridership. On-time performance again staying pretty stable, and only about a 3% increase in revenue hours. Most of that change had to do with some of the route realignments that we have done, the Route 24 being implemented, and changing over 21 and 22 to Route 20 to try and improve some of that on-time performance that we were seeing earlier in the year. West Fargo had a very large construction project. Route 18, which services from downtown Fargo all the way out to the Walmart on 52nd Avenue. 25th Street had a pretty large construction project, or not 25th, 32nd Avenue had a large construction project in 2018, and that all contributed to the on-time performance. So to see that on-time performance stay fairly stable, we were pretty happy with that. On the second page, ignore the 2017. I just apparently did not update the formula. So it is actually 2018 data, not 2018 data. In paratransit, we did see only an increase of about 0.3% in ridership, which is good. As you know, we always want to see the ridership on fixed route go up and the ridership in paratransit either stay the same or reduce. Our mobility manager, Sean Kroll, and his staff of the paratransit reservations have been doing a wonderful job working on keeping phone queues stable, getting rides booked, being efficient with the vehicles that they're using. And these numbers really show that for the 2018 year.
Senior ride, Metro Senior Ride for Moorhead Dilworth was down 4.15%. That's the first time I think we've been down since we started in 2008. So it's stabilizing a little bit there, so we haven't increased any service hours or any of our vehicles. So it's just stabilizing.
As far as some of the other statistics in that gray area, we did notice an increase in collisions, both preventable and non-preventable, about a 24% increase. And so, as Julie had mentioned, they are working on refining some of their training procedures with drivers and trying to reinforce that safety and doing everything that they can to try and bring some of those numbers down a little bit. Missed trips, it was a very difficult year for missed trips. We had a pretty significant increase with contractor error missed trips. Again, a lot of that has to do with some driver training that Julie is addressing. Julie Sellner is addressing. Complaints stayed fairly stable as far as substantiated complaints go. We did make it quite a bit easier for our passengers to give us feedback. We actually removed our old system and implemented a new system in late 2016. We use SharePoint for a feedback system where people can provide feedback on the organization, and then it gets classified as a complaint, an incident, other. Helps us kind of track some of that information. And so we're tracking more, so those numbers can look a little bit skewed because they're not necessarily new issues, but they're issues that we are now tracking so that we can have a better idea of what's going on in our location. And so that's separated out by complaints and incidents. And then, you want me to do social media? Mm-hmm. Okay. Social media, our MapBus website, mapbus.com, that's had quite an increase. In 2017, when we implemented the new website, we did see an increase on that. We did have a few months where we did not have any data as the programming was being switched over and the use of Google Analytics. And so that's why that number looks so high right now. It is definitely an increase. That looks a little bit better than it probably is. But one thing that I found to be that I really enjoyed looking at was our MapBus app. We had, I believe it was 1 or 2 months in 2018, and we've already had it happen once in 2019, where there has been so much use on the MapBus app that we've actually exceeded our bandwidth, and we had to pay to increase the bandwidth. our app got locked out to our passengers, which is not ideal, but that means they're using it. When I looked at it just the other day, we only had about 8% of the users are new. The rest are all returning and have used the app for some time. So we're very proud that we can have that app out there and that it's assisting our passengers and they're actually able to utilize that. It's money well spent. Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, rider alerts, those all stay pretty consistent. We'll see a jump in Facebook likes and Twitter followers at the beginning of the college years, and then it kind of stabilizes throughout the year for that. But again, we're still seeing some increases on there. So that's kind of 2018 year in review. Lori, you want to do college?
Yeah, college ridership, when passengers use their college IDs, we track that separately by college, and also when they are on campus riding, we track that separately by college. And so here's the fiscal year for the colleges as of December for the year end 2018. So ridership was down on the college across, well, Concordia was up quite a bit, and so was M-State, but our other colleges were down, and so we ended up with a net down of ridership of 18%. But we're glad to see that Concordia and M-State are up 56% as of December, so I think the trend is going up. Any questions on 2018?
Deb has a question.
Lori, that was actually what I was looking at too, as a university professor. So I noticed that the only two that we saw a slight uptick with Concordia and then a nice jump with M-State. So any thoughts you have on that of why we saw that decline in 18 versus 17?
Well, we're working with the colleges trying to establish marketing and opportunities to market to keep that message out there. So Annie might know more than I do on that one as far as MSUM goes, but we are working with the colleges to try to see why that is occurring and what we can do to improve usage. Every time new students come in, it's a new push to make them understand what's there and how it's available. And then the nice part about UPass is the ease of use, is that you don't have to go buy anything. You can just try it whenever you want to try it. So you're trying to encourage people to give it a try and see if it works for them, especially with all the additional night hours and additional Saturday hours. We go to more areas, and so the message should we need to make that message more clear that, hey, we've improved service and we'd like to give it a try. If Annie has any comments that you would like to add?
Sure. So I serve at MSUM as the Associate Director for Student Life. And so one of our things that we've been doing this year was trying to help our students understand how to ride the bus, what that means. And so as students join us in August, we use our first year programs and our welcome week to actually get them all on the bus. We help them kind of navigate that, get them a chance to ride to downtown Fargo and see how the bus system works. And then we just know that as students navigate that, sometimes as we get closer to breaks and things like that, they just might have fewer trips because they aren't needing to go get supplies or things like that as much. But we also, in working with our students, know that some of them really depend on it to get to campus. I work in the student union. One of our building managers, international student, doesn't have a car, and so he relies on the bus to get to campus every day. And so for us, it's really trying to look at what is the balance between access and making sure students are riding it. And so we did a small campaign as the weather was getting colder last fall to really encourage students, if they were walking to campus, to know where the routes were and where things picked up and some of that. So I think we didn't see as big of a jump in ridership as we wanted, but when we were kind of polling our students, they seemed to at least know about the service. And so trying to then shift that from knowing about it to using it is kind of what we're looking at next. That's what's happening at MSUM.
Any questions? Okay, move on to 2019, February.
So 2019, I don't know if we need to go through both January and February. The story pretty much tells itself on this. There's a lot of numbers here. I don't want to bore you with all of it. Couple of main things that we're seeing is there has been a decline in ridership, but also revenue hours. And that a large reason of that is for the weather. We've had several days where we've closed early or that we were just closed because we couldn't operate. Back in January 30th was an amazing Learning experience for everybody in our organization. Apparently diesel fuel freezes when it gets too cold and buses stop where they're at. It happens. So we dealt with the punches on that. And talked to the customers, gave them the information that we had at hand, and then we're just working to make sure that, we're a little bit more prepared in the future. Some of those extreme cold weathers that we saw this year, the excessive snowfall that we have seen, all of that has played a contributing factor into our ridership numbers. And so we're not surprised to see the ridership down because of the reduction in revenue hours. I just got to point out here, in February, you'll see that our MapBus app, compared to 2018, I actually had to double check these numbers because I didn't think they were right, but we had a 140% increase in the use of our app, which again is, from an organization standpoint, is fantastic because that really shows us that the money we're spending on that and the time we're spending on that is actually beneficial. So, Lori, I don't know if you want to talk about anything specific?
Yeah, it's just that you can see that the ridership is down less than the revenue hours, so we are really still increasing ridership. It's just that we had fewer hours on the road because of weather. So, January, February, March are usually our busiest times of the month as people's cars don't start and weather becomes a problem. This year it has been a real struggle to keep the snow out of the shelters and people not waiting on top of snowbanks. And we did have our First Transit contractor talk to the drivers about making accommodations to people. If they're close by a bus stop, standing at a curb waving to you, don't make them walk back to the stop and make them climb on the snow bend to be close to the sign. So we're trying to make those accommodations to our passengers to make it a more pleasant ride this winter. Now we got to deal with melting snow and water puddles.
Puddles.
Okay, any questions for Julie? Okay, if not, we'll move on to item 3G, the 2019 marketing plan. Matthew?
All right. So instead of giving you another memo that you guys can read, I figured I'd just do a PowerPoint presentation. Plus, we're doing something a little bit different with the marketing this year. So the city of Fargo last year decided that we'd go out for a marketing firm. We took $20,000 in our marketing budget and said, if we were to hire this outside contract someone to do this work for us, the lion's share, what would we get for that? Having in-house personnel do it is great, but it is very time consuming. It takes a skill set. And we do have some of those people, but we also have our operations that we have to run, and that's what's most important. And so we decided that taking that money, setting it aside, and going out for an RFP on this was the thing to do. Absolute Marketing was the firm that was chosen. We received three potential bidders, 3 companies bid on it. Absolute, Flint, and South and West, an organization out on the East Coast. Absolute was a little bit more outside the box with their proposal, which is what intrigued us. And we thought, we've been doing a lot of the same marketing things for the past couple of years, so let's try and do something a little bit different. So one of the things is we're trying to tie in all of our campaigns throughout the year with one main topic, one main slogan, where it applies. Now, granted, there's going to be some of those one-off type of things, but that a place for every one vehicle that we wrapped last week, that was really the focus that we wanted to emphasize in the majority of our advertising. And so when we met with Absolute, we talked about that. We talked about our main events that we have throughout the year, and I'll be showing slides here coming up. And so that's kind of where we're centering everything. One thing I forgot to mention in the bottom right corner, as Julie had mentioned with the GTC Renovation project, all the pictures that you'll see on these coming slides are renderings of what the facility could potentially look like. They're kind of more generalized thoughts of how the facility may look in a year. Nothing is set in stone, but I thought I'd throw them on there just for some eye candy because they're kind of neat to look at. So in February, we did a winter promotion and a Route 24 promotion. Route 24 servicing out the Sanford Medical Center, Costco, Cashwise, Eagle Run area, kind of a, majority of the West Fargo region, Southwest Fargo. And then winter driving, kind of focusing more on that, why warm up your car, you can get on a warm bus, that type of stuff. And I did include the audio clips. we got a little bit of a late start with this organization, and so all we did for this were radio advertisements, and so I will just play this one so you guys can hear.
Are you sick and tired of winter's woes and being stuck at home with cabin fever? Well, you can restore your get up and goes by taking Matt Bus, the cold reliever. It doesn't matter that your car won't start or that you don't have time to shovel it out. Just let it sit for now and do what's smart. Ride Matt Bus to get out and about. Take a break from driving when going to school, work, or out for fun. Come on, ride with us on Matt Bus. There's a place for everyone.
Go to mattbus.com for schedule and map.
So a little bit different. You know, we've done radio commercials in the past, and the Route 24, I can play that too, but it's pretty much the same thing, kind of the same theme. In April, we have Youth Pass coming up. I'm using an older image in the bottom right corner there, Maddie the red panda out at the zoo, trying to emphasize to parents mainly that, you know, instead of taking your kids all over the place, if they are old enough and you feel comfortable with them riding the buses, you can get them a 90-day Youth Pass, and you can let them get to where they want to go on their own. Give them a little bit of independence. So this is still in development. We should have some artwork and stuff for it here this coming week, and then we'll be advertising this in April. July comes the street fair. And this is where using this marketing organization got a little bit more fun for us, kind of thinking outside the box. We're all familiar with Street Fair. We have that happen every year down here. It really focuses on Link FM. We try and incorporate some of the other routes with the advertising, giving riders that option that they don't have to try and, you know, circle the Street Fair area and deal with all that congestion down there. They can just hop on one of our buses at, you know, one end of Moorhead Center Mall or the other end of Fargo, ride into it, make it a little bit easier for them. So they actually created a video that I will show you that we will be utilizing. Oopsie.
Traffic and parking can be daunting if you drive to the downtown Fargo Street Fair. But this July 18th through the 20th, there's a stress-free way to get you there. Make a plan to just leave the car behind and ditch the traffic and parking fuss. Ride Link FM free to ease your mind, or for half fare, take a downtown Matt Bus. Don't miss the street fair with all its crafts, food, drinks, and fun. Ride with us on Matt Bus. There's a place for everyone. Go to mattbus.com for street fair schedule and fares.
So again, the video, a little bit outside the box for us, but really kind of focusing on being able to post that out on social media, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Google Ads. That's kind of what the marketing company said. So many people are constantly on their cell phones now and on those devices that they felt that, you know, utilizing some of that money and getting that pushed out to those social media networks would be a better use of our time and our resources. In August, we have Back to School. Again, working with incoming students, you know, economical way of traveling. Some of the students in the area do not have vehicles. They come from other parts of the world. They're very used to public transit, so we want to be able to do that outreach. Again, there will be, you know, radio, some flyers, posters, different things like that that we'll be doing with those. And then, of course, the UPass college students. Both Fargo and Moorhead work with the colleges to have on-site staff during back to school at some point in time, where we invite the radio stations to come out, kind of make it a fun day. Up at NDSU, we'll give away water, you know, some other little giveaway or something like that. Hang out at the transit hub up there and talk to students, get them familiar with it, show them the technology, answer any questions that they have, kind of put a face to who we are. And then I believe Moorhead does very similar things with MSU, M-State. I'm not sure about Concordia, but yeah. September is iGo Eco. This one, previously the last couple of years we have done iGo Eco in the spring. Typically started in May with the bike share program starting up. We have noticed that that may not be the most ideal time because we're working with students. Again, 50% of our ridership are college students, and people are coming out of summer. You know, roads aren't always the best. cleanup, different things like that. And originally, iGo Eco was done in the fall. And so this year, we're looking at moving it back to the fall. We're going to start it in September. It'll be a 4 or 5 week promotion, heavily utilized with radio, giving away prizes, doing that same weekly competition. Again, artwork, radio scripts, and there will be a video for iGo Eco as well. Those are all in the development stage. But what we're finding very interesting is with this marketing company, they've already given us materials through the end of the year for a lot of scripts and different things like that. So this will be the first year that we actually have like marketing completed for our major events this early, which is really nice. It takes a lot of pressure off of staff. In October, we have our Try Map Bus week. This is where we go down GTC. We have staff down there giving out popcorn, water to our passengers. Again, just kind of being there, putting a face to some of the admin offices that some of them may have called and spoke with us about, talking about the organization, getting their feedback and comments. It's amazing how much when you hand someone a bag of popcorn, they'll just unload with you all their thoughts and desires of what the system could do and couldn't do. And we've gotten some good ideas, you know, things that we sit in an office and look at Google Maps, and then we're like, a passenger will come in and just start talking about how, you know, they have to walk this block, and then, you know, this block has this weird obstacle in it or something like that, and we can go back and look or go out and take a look at it. And it's really quite amazing how much information we get at Try Map Bus Week from our passengers. So I actually wish we would do this about twice a year. Okay. And then November, December, we come into our quarter days. I'm sure most of you have seen that billboard in the bottom right corner for just riding 25 cents. This is, of course, old artwork. I don't know if we will have new artwork or if we will use similar artwork. But again, we will have some radio scripts and different things like that done for this, advertising on radio, Google, Facebook, Twitter, all of those fun things. Really focusing on people being able to get around town for just a quarter, not having to worry about, you know, starting up their vehicle, having to deal with stressful driving, doing any of those types of things. And so that's really what our main marketing campaign is throughout the year. Now, the items that I have mentioned in this are just the major items that we have throughout the year. There are other pieces that we have, like we have Earth Week coming up, so the Get Your Can on the Bus promotion, we'll still be doing that. And there will be other smaller marketing things that we will still do in-house. But these are kind of our main focusing points that we wanted, and really wanted to get that information out to our passengers. And then Lori had mentioned this a little bit earlier, but APTA, we did win an AdWheels Award for our commercial that we had showed you guys last year. This commercial was created during the iGo Eco Challenge, and then we decided to get a little bit more bang for our buck. And so we specifically had that commercial just have a small section at the end for iGo Eco, so that we could cut that off and display it at like Fargo Force games, Red Hawks games, on our website, you know, anywhere that we wanted to have a commercial presence. We did have some trade wraps with WDAY, or we do have some trade wraps with WDAY, and so our commercial does play on regular TV as well. Some of you may have seen them. I am of the generation who uses streaming, so I don't see a lot of regular TV anymore. But I did include that video just to kind of give you guys a quick refresher of what that video was. We did use local staff vehicles, so every vehicle you see in here is one that someone in our office drives. Mine is the Jeep, and I was really thankful that that Moorhead PD did not give me a ticket, because they had me driving all over under the bridge by the river, not on the road when we were filming this. And so we had a lot of fun creating this commercial, and both staff, Fargo, Moorhead, jumped in and went out there and took extra time. It was a lot of fun, and it was nice to see that recognition from APTA.
Every hour in Fargo Moorhead, cars are abandoned. Drivers leave them alone, unwashed, with full tanks. These drivers found a smart way to commute, starting at $26 a month.
MapBus, a place for everyone. Check out all our new and expanded routes at mapbus.com.
All right, and that is it. Questions?
Questions for Matt? Good job.
Thanks, guys.
All right, any other business from the board members? Okay, hearing none, thank you everyone for coming, and we are officially adjourned. Thank you.